The embers of Outpost Theta-7 still glowed in the void when Captain Darius Core made his vow. Around him floated the frozen corpses of his crew, his pack, 17 souls who'd trusted him to keep them safe. The Kaldrith Consortium had promised safe passage through their space. Instead, they'd ambushed the transport convoy, stripped the ships for parts, and left everyone to die in the cold vacuum. Everyone except Darius and Zephyra. The dragon's massive form coiled around the damaged escape pod, her scales shimmering with bioluminescent fury. Where most species saw dragons as mere beasts, humans had learned the truth centuries ago. They were partners, equals, creatures of terrible intelligence and loyalty. Zephyra's golden eyes met Darius's, and no words were needed. She'd felt every death through their neural link. She'd screamed her rage across 3 star systems when the betrayal came. Now, 6 months later, they stood on the bridge of the Retribution's edge. A retrofitted Kaldrith cruiser they'd liberated from a supply depot. Darius studied the holographic display showing the trail of the consortium's fleet. The aliens thought they were untouchable, protected by treaties and political machinations that kept human space at bay. They'd forgotten what humans did best. They adapted, they persevered, and they never forgave those who murdered their pack. Fourth world in 3 weeks. Zephyra's voice rumbled through their link, a sound like distant thunder. She'd learned to fold her 15-meter frame into the ship's cargo bay, but her presence filled every corridor with heat and purpose. They're running scared. Good, Darius said, his voice cold as the void that had claimed his crew. Let them run. The pursuit had taken them through the veiled nebula, across the border wars of the Shrathi Empire, and now into the lawless fringe territories where the consortium thought they could hide. At each stop, Darius and Zephyra had found more evidence of the consortium's crimes. Theta-7 hadn't been their first ambush. Dozens of ships, human and otherwise, had vanished along their trade routes. But Darius was the first survivor who'd come hunting. The Retribution's edge dropped out of hyperspace. Above a barren moon designated Refuge 19 sensor, sweeps revealed a hidden base carved into the lunar surface, shielded by old military-grade stealth tech. Darius smiled grimly. The consortium's leadership had retreated here, thinking themselves safe behind layers of automated defenses and hired mercenaries. Ready? He asked. Zephyra's answering roar shook the bulkheads. Flames licked at the edges of her maw, plasma-hot fire that could melt through starship hulls. She was ready. They breached the atmosphere in a combat drop, the ship's hull glowing red as Darius pushed the engines beyond their limits. Warning klaxons shrieked, but he ignored them. Zephyra had already positioned herself at the starboard airlock, her claws gouging marks in the reinforced deck plating. The consortium's defense grid opened fire. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds filled the sky, a deadly light show designed to vaporize anything that approached. But Darius had studied their tactics, learned their patterns during 6 months of relentless pursuit. He wove through the barrage with human reflexes enhanced by neural augments, each dodge calculated to the millisecond. Now, he shouted. The airlock blew open and Zephyra launched herself into the maelstrom. Her wings, reinforced with bioengineered carbon fiber membranes, caught the thin atmosphere and carried her toward the base's primary tower. Defense drones swarmed her, but she incinerated them with gouts of superheated plasma, her roar echoing across the dead moon's surface. Darius brought the ship down hard on the landing pad, crushing a squadron of security mechs beneath its bulk. He was out of the cockpit before the engines finished cycling down, pulse rifle in hand, armor sealed. The base's mercenaries poured out to meet him, Vryn shock troops, Kaldrith enforcers, even a few rogue humans who'd sold their loyalty for credits. They'd never faced a human with nothing left to lose. Darius moved through them like death itself, his augmented reflexes and combat training honed by decades of military service. But it was more than skill. It was fury, pure and focused, channeled into every shot, every movement. He didn't fight for glory or credits. He fought for the 17 voices that would never speak again, for the families who'd never see their loved ones come home. He fought for his pack. Zephyra crashed through the tower's upper levels, her fire turning reinforced corridors into molten slag. The consortium's leadership had gathered in a fortified command center, surrounded by the best security money could buy. It wasn't enough. Nothing could stop a dragon who'd bonded with a human, who'd felt the deaths of innocent souls through their shared consciousness. She tore through the final door with claws that could rend starship armor. And there they were, Chancellor Reck and his inner circle, the architects of the ambush, the murderers who'd ordered the death of Theta 7's crew. Darius entered moments later, his rifle trained on the cowering aliens. They tried to speak, to bargain, to explain how it was just business, just the cold calculus of profit margins and acceptable losses. He pulled the trigger. When it was over, Darius stood in the burning command center, surrounded by justice delivered. Zephyra's massive head rested against his shoulder, their link pulsing with shared grief and grim satisfaction. They'd crossed a dozen worlds, broken 100 laws, and made themselves fugitives in the eyes of half the galaxy. But the pack had been avenged. As they walked back to the Retribution's edge through the smoldering ruins, Darius felt the weight of 17 ghosts lift from his shoulders. They would never be forgotten. Their names were carved into the ship's hull, burned into his memory, honored by the blood of those who'd betrayed them. Zephyra spread her wings as they reached the ship, flame still dancing along her scales. "Where next?" she asked through their link. Darius looked up at the stars, at the infinite expanse where other predators lurked, where other packs might face betrayal. His jaw tightened with renewed purpose. "Wherever they need us," he said. "There are more monsters out there, and humans don't abandon their own." The dragon's roar of agreement shook the moon's surface as they lifted off, leaving the burning ruins behind. The consortium had learned a terrible lesson, one that would echo across the galaxy. Betray a human's pack and neither distance nor time nor worlds would save you from what came next.